Have you ever just wondered what's really going on inside someone's head? Or, let's be honest, even your own? It's one of the biggest mysteries out there. Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on how psychologists actually tackle this challenge, how they move beyond just guesswork to scientifically study the mind. All right, let's get right into it. And that really is the central puzzle, isn't it? I mean, you can't just open up a brain and see a thought or a feeling. It's a totally private, inner world. So how in the world do psychologists apply the strict rules of science to something so, well, invisible? That's the big question we're going to unpack today. This right here gets to the heart of it. On one side, you have what we all do. We play armchair psychologists, right? We see someone do something and we guess why they did it. That's everyday observation. It's based on feelings and it's usually biased. But professional psychology, that relies on a scientific procedure. It's a systematic, evidence-based process that's all about aiming for objectivity, trying to strip away all those personal biases to get to something much more reliable. So, to start that systematic process, psychologists first need a framework, kind of like a lens to look through. And there isn't just one way to look at the mind. There are several major approaches, and each one gives us a really unique perspective on why we do the things we do. First up, the classic, the psychoanalytic approach. You've probably heard of its pioneer, Sigmund Freud. His big idea was that we're not always in the driver's seat of our own minds. He argued that a lot of our behaviors are actually triggered by these deep, unconscious motivations, things from our past, often from childhood, that we're not even aware of. And this image is the perfect way to visualize Freud's idea. He saw the mind like an iceberg. The little tip that's above the water, that's our conscious mind, the stuff we're aware of. But underneath the surface, that's the huge hidden part, the unconscious. And he believed that's where the real drivers of our actions are lurking. Okay, now let's shift gears completely, from the hidden world of the unconscious to the very physical world of the body. This is the biological approach. This lens zooms right in on the hardware, our brain, our genes, hormones, our entire nervous system. From this point of view, our thoughts and feelings are rooted in very real physical processes. It's all about the chemistry and wiring inside us. Then you've got the behaviorists. They basically said, forget the unconscious. Forget what's inside the black box of the mind. We can't see it, so we can't study it scientifically. For them, psychology should only focus on what we can directly see and measure, behavior. They believed our actions are pretty much just learned responses to our environment, stimulus and response. That's it. Now, in total contrast to that, the humanistic approach offered a much more optimistic view of people. This approach puts the focus squarely on our potential for personal growth and free will. It doesn't see us as puppets of our unconscious or our environment. Instead, it sees us as active agents in our own lives, always striving to reach our full potential, or what they call self-actualization. And finally, there's the cognitive approach, which has become incredibly influential. It looks at the mind as a kind of super sophisticated computer. It's all about information processing. How do we take in information from the world, store it, think about it, and then use it to solve problems? This approach dives right back into those mental processes that the behaviorists wanted to ignore. Okay, so once a psychologist picks a lens to look through, how do they actually go about their research? Well, they need tools. And that brings us to the core research methods they use to gather evidence and actually test their big ideas. The gold standard for figuring out cause and effect is the experimental method. The magic word here is control. So imagine you want to test a new study technique. You create two groups. One group, the experimental group, uses the new technique. That's the one thing you change, the independent variable. The other group, the control group, just studies like they normally would. Then you measure everyone's test scores. That's the outcome, or the dependent variable. If the first group scores way higher, you've got some pretty strong evidence that your new technique caused that improvement. But hey, you can't always run a controlled experiment. Sometimes you just need to watch people in their natural setting. And you can do this in two main ways. With participant observation, the researcher actually joins the group they're studying to get a real insider's view. With non-participant observation, they're more like a fly on the wall, just watching from a distance so they don't influence anything. A case study is kind of like a psychological biography. It's a super deep dive. You zoom in on just one person or a really small group, and you collect a ton of detail about them. This lets researchers get this incredibly rich understanding of rare or complex situations that you just couldn't study any other way. And what if you want to know what a lot of people think about something? That's where the survey comes in. This is the go-to method for getting a quick snapshot of public opinion or beliefs on a massive scale. You just ask a whole bunch of people the same set of questions. Simple as that. So we have the approaches and we have the methods. But how do you actually collect the data? Let's drill down one more level and look at the specific instruments psychologists use to get that raw information. Psychological tests are a huge tool, and they basically come in two main flavors. You have objective tests, which are very direct. Think multiple choice questions or true-false. They're straightforward. Then you have projective tests, which are way more subtle. They might show you something ambiguous, like an ink blot, and ask what you see. The idea is that you'll project your own unconscious thoughts and feelings onto the image to make sense of it. Now, when you're building a survey, the types of questions you ask are everything. Closed-ended questions are the ones that give you limited choices, yes, no, or rate this on a scale of 1 to 5. They give you really neat data that's easy to analyze. Open-ended questions are the opposite. They let people just answer in their own words, which gives you all this rich, detailed information. And of course, you have the interview. A structured interview is like following a script. Every single person gets the exact same questions in the exact same order. It's very standardized. But an unstructured interview, that's much more like a natural conversation. It's flexible, and it allows the interviewer to follow interesting tangents and really dig deeper based on what the person is saying. Okay, so we've gone from these huge, grand theories about the mind all the way down to the nitty-gritty of how you word a question on a form. So what does it all add up to? Why is this step-by-step process so important? The bottom line is, studying the mind isn't just one single thing. It's a whole process. It starts with a big, broad, theoretical lens, gets focused through a specific research method, and then gathers clues with really precise tools. It's this multi-layered, systematic process that allows psychologists to turn all that mystery into real, evidence-based understanding. You know, there's a quote from the source material that just nails this. It says, "A psychologist follows a systematic, scientific procedure." And that's the key takeaway. It's not about gut feelings or just guessing. It's about a disciplined, scientific process that lets us truly explain and interpret the incredibly complex world of human behavior. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. When you think about yourself, what makes you tick? Are you a product of your unconscious drives, your biology, your learned behaviors, your thought patterns, or that inner drive to become your best self? With all these different lenses to choose from, which one do you think gives the clearest picture of who you are?